Okay, I've got a couple of things to say about this whole crime situation. In fact, it's not just a crime situation, it's a situation in the country, the political situation and the symptoms of societal decline that come from that. And yes, I'm doing this while I'm driving, and that's illegal, but, well, if you look at the general lawlessness nowadays, that again is an indication of just how far this whole situation has slid backwards down the hill. It seems to be a thing, a common thing nowadays, where people don't worry about anything other than their own little picture. Everyone is concerned with survival, and that's understandable. But there's another aspect to this that people really ought to become aware of again. People used to be aware of this, and it seems as though that's been forgotten because life has become comfortable and I suppose easy, whether you like to believe it or not, and whether you take into account the level of crime and lawlessness in society, whether it's local or globally. Whether you'd like to believe it or not, you actually live in the most comfortable time period in history. It is far easier nowadays not to die than it would have been 100 years ago. Despite all the impediments, the self-imposed impediments. Anyway, the point I want to make, or one of the points I want to make, and I'll try and keep this brief because I understand everybody's rushing around doing their own thing. The point I want to make is that unless you get involved, unless you show up, unless you participate in some way, the problem will only get worse. That you don't know how to participate is not an excuse. That you always have an excuse for not attending the meetings, that is an indication that you don't actually feel that the problem is bad enough yet. And unfortunately, the reality is this: you will only be at a point in your life where you feel it's worth getting involved when the problem is so bad that you cannot stand it anymore. And then, unfortunately, you have two options. You either die, or you try and make some changes and try and contribute to the whole. Because whether you like it or not, as much as you want to be an individual, you are still part of a community, you are still part of a societal group. Irrespective of what you've been told to believe by the internet and your political manipulators. Now, the idea here is to pay enough attention to be able to navigate the mess, navigate the absolute chaos that is intentional. You are in a situation where the chaos around you is intentional, and it serves a purpose for the people that are manipulating the situation. It serves a purpose for the people that are controlling things politically, because the more chaotic things are, the easier they are to manipulate, and you are one of those things. Now, I'm talking here in general terms, but obviously I'm alluding to the general crime problem. And it is a general thing, but it's very specific as well. And it's enabled by, among other things, you. Because of the way you see your participation in everything, because of the way you see your need to get involved. Let's be frank about it, your selfish approach to things. And you know what, if the shoe doesn't fit, well, fine, don't wear it. I'm actually at a point now of not caring, because if people don't want to admit their role in the situation, I can't do anything about that. What is required for things to get better going forward is a great deal of honesty, and that starts with self. You need to be honest about the reality of the situation, and that's the only way you are really able to make it get better. And again, I know I'm talking in a bit of a nebulous manner about this whole thing, and in my own small world, this little piece of the East Rand here, the little plot area, which is not so little, by the way. The problems extend far and wide, but it's really all that I'm involved in. That's not entirely true either, but it's what I'm primarily involved in, and the only way that the entire thing gets better for you, because you are involved in it too, is that you get involved and you participate and you practice a bit of honesty, and yeah, that's about it. Not knowing how is not an excuse. Not having the gumption to ask is not an excuse. Thinking that you're going to look silly because you ask is not an excuse. We are so far beyond that now that it's crazy. Putting aside your pride, putting aside your confusion, putting aside all of those things is actually the only thing you can do. So if you've made it to this point in the video, well done. Most people won't make it past 30 seconds, if that, because they are so self-absorbed. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of our world nowadays, where everything is about instant gratification and what's in it for me. So if you've made it to this point in the video, that's great, well done. What I would suggest you do is give yourself a pat on the back for being interested enough to listen. And then the next thing is to try and make a couple of decisions going forward to participate, get involved, ask where you can help, do patrols, all of those things. No one's expecting you to do things that you're really uncomfortable doing or don't know how to do. But the other thing is that when you do get involved, you'll find that that level of imagined discomfort is only imagined. You've made that up in your mind. I can tell you that if you don't get involved, that the level of discomfort that you will experience in the very near future and going forward, and that applies to any of the people that you know, your kids, your family, it applies to them as well. And I can tell you that that level of discomfort will be something that you have not imagined the magnitude of. So give that some thought.